Alrighty, let's make this quick. First, I'm going to play the animations running at 16 FPS. Alright, now that is played, I will now go through the process of explaining exactly what I did.
Wow.
Alright, I shall now explain exactly the process I just went through. Alright, and I'll break it down slowly. Okay? Excuse if you hear any background noise. I have a dog, loud door, and a brother. Okay? Alright, so if I remember correctly, somebody wanted a whip tutorial and another person wanted a fire tutorial. Now, because I have some fire-based moves already made, I decided I'll simply make more, but after I work on this, which is something completely new. Whip is something that I'll say fiddled with, but not in the sense of, the goal being a whip. More so, something extremely old. For instance, all right, let's go to my home screen. Let's go to YouTube. All right, let's go to my channel. Let's go all the way down. All right, like as far as possible. And we're looking for a specific animation called nunchucks. That utilizes what I'm currently using for the whip now. I think I went too far actually. Let's see. Bouncy is not it. Mech, sword, explosion, blah, blah, blah. Render, blah, blah, blah. Where is Nunchuck? We're close to it. But yeah, Nunchuck is essentially the same thing I use. Here we go. To figure this out. All right. So as you can see, I had a base already down, and that's what I used here. For the base here, I use that same premise of flowing movement, but I just changed up some stuff. So, what I learned would be the best way to describe this is essentially grab a circle or an ellipse or something that would indicate where you want your strike zone to be, and then just add a single effect for that strike zone. After you do that strike zone, however, the whip needs to be somewhere else. It doesn't even matter where, really. All right. Like, for instance, if you look at all three indications of the whip's attack, and I'll add in the little hit boxes or ranges, if you will, for each one, just for the sake of consistency and to explain what I mean. You can see that, of course, there's a startup frame, like I usually have. This one has around 2, and then an attack frame, right? But this dude doesn't actually interact with this guy at all. The whip doesn't even have a frame of interacting with this guy. It's just the effect interacting with the guy, and then another effect to indicate the actual hit. And then the whip is up here already in its next movement phase. And this continues over. Okay? And I do the exact same thing again and again. All right? Now, you may be like, well, why do that? Well, to be totally honest with you, simulating something hitting something else and having an actual frame for it, from what I understand, makes it kind of slow at the current FPS that I'm using, which is 16. All right. Now that we have a base premise going, all right, which is essentially make startup frames, then make an attack frame, and then just put the whip wherever you want it, I'll show you how to move it. Now, in the another animation that I did, that I uploaded actually a few minutes ago, not a few minutes, like a day or two ago. Where is it? All the way up. This animation is called ES. I showed my brother it. This animation is, oh, cool, thank you. This animation is how I essentially was basing the primary movement of the actual whip on. I just, once again, had to change up some stuff. In this case, if you look at the character's tail, this is the same type of movement pattern I use for the whip. The whip utilizes that same movement pattern. The only difference is that I don't make it move by itself. I have to make something else indicate indicate its movement, which is in this case is the character himself and this little brick. All right. And then from there, you just kind of make it glide along the same move. So if I was to like explain the movement in a way that would be easy, essentially keep it very circular, right? And wherever you made the initial frame for the whip to just continue its move, try to keep the rest of the whip moving along that line as possible. Now, this is me using points to do this, which is a lot more complicated. It leads to a lot more like, uh detail, if you will, but it's you can do this with just like a line of notes. I've done it before. All right. So essentially, if you're looking at it, you're noticing it. Every single time that I make the whip, it usually stays along the same track as the previous frame, right? Every single time. Even when it's in the end frames, it still kind of follows the same track over and over and over. There's very little deviation. All right. So if I was to break down the whipping thing, all right, essentially you would, if you can't visualize the actual attack before it happens, just make some startup frames. It doesn't really matter how the whip it functions or how you make the whip look inside the startup frames. Just make it a line that looks like a string, because whips don't really have a distinct shape except the string part. Once they start moving, that shape goes all over the place, so it doesn't matter. Make it stay along the same line that you created for the initial frame. And then once you get to the attack frame, just make the whip go any other area except the actual thing it's interacting with if you're on 16 frames per second. All right, like mine. If you are having a struggle or a hard time doing that, simply grab an ellipse, turn down the opacity, probably to like 0.5 or 0.1 if you really want to. Put it in the spot where you think you want the range and attack to hit, and at the edge or the very tip of the attack, add a hitbox. All right. If you want to get really complicated, like I like to get, you could do something like this. Now you may be like, why is there so much interaction? Well, that's because a whip is unpredictable. Whips do not hit one target all the time. If you hit downward, right? If you strike downward with a whip, it'll hit the target, it'll hit the ground, and if the whip is bouncy enough, it'll hit the ground again. You know, that's something I think about. So essentially, you would have hit here, and hit here, right? So yeah, it's the same premise over and over and over again. Once you learn how to do the first initial one, the rest of them become very easy to do because you simply have to do the same thing you just did and add slight variation. All right. Once again, I'll be doing a fire-based tutorial. I haven't really improved my flame, but I will. I think I might make some stuff to show off and then improve some flame moves. And once again, I'll make it a small animation because why not? Now, for anything else people might want, once again, suggest them inside the comments. I'll get to it. College is kind of hard. Life stuff is kind of hard, and I sat here for like 2 to 3 hours making this one animation. Okay, so once again, if you want something to be made, put it inside of the comment, in the comment section. For those who are like, what about a part of something, which I honestly doubt a lot of people are, I'm still making it. I'm gonna be honest, I'm still making it. It's just I had to postpone it due to the school, basically. School. It's always school. All right, so yeah. See you guys around.